Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I have another really fun blanket for all of you to do. It's pretty quick to put together, but it also has a fun new stitch. If you didn't catch my video the other day, this blanket includes the triad stitch. And I have a separate video out there that specifically covers doing the triad stitch here, and you'll see that throughout my border. Really fun three-pronged stitch there that adds some texture and some interesting elements for the border of this blanket. So I hope you'll give this a try. Now I also really love this color. And I know this is not a color for everybody, but I think it's kind of a bold color. It kind of reminds me of a sunflower. But I love the look of this. It's actually called mustard. I think it's a little bit more gold than mustard, and it may not come across that well in the lighting here. So I'll try to have some good pictures too in the thumbnail. But I really love the look of this, this color too. The other thing is I want to mention, you'll notice here, I have in the center of the blanket, it's mostly double crochet. And if you've watched my videos before, you know I'm not a big fan of having double crochets and rows of double crochet in a blanket, or anywhere that there's large spaces of them, because I think they have pretty big gaps and they're not as stable, and it's just not my favorite thing to do. There's a couple reasons I have double crochets as the main stitch in the body of the blanket. One is because I think with the border being so interesting and intricate, it's nice to have this really simple section as the main center of the blanket. So I like that. The other thing is, and you'll notice this here, is every other row is a single crochet row. And that really adds to the structure and the strength and the stability of this. So it's not that, pull apart double crochet like you would if you just did stacks of double crochet on top of each other, because each, every other row has that single crochet row. So I just think it adds a little bit, and it makes it look a little more textured too. So I hope you will give this a try, and I hope you'll enjoy this. Let's get going and take a look at what materials we need to finish this blanket. Let's take a look at the materials that we're going to use for this. I'm actually going to use the Big Twist yarn, which is a 100% acrylic yarn. This is a medium weight 4. And it recommends a 5mm. I'm actually using a 5mm. I know I don't normally, but I'm gonna stick with a 5mm on this one. And I kind of liked this color. It's just called mustard, but it's kind of a bold color that I thought might be nice for a blanket. So that's what I'm going to use. Now I think I'm going to end up using, let's see, about 3 of these. I'll put in the description box what the actual amount is, but I think I'm going to end up using 3 of these. And I'm going to make a blanket that's about 40 inches by 48 inches. That's typically what I go for a small, like a small throw blanket. So that's what I'm gonna do here. So the other things you'll need if you want, and you're going for a certain size, you may want to have a tape measure, so I have that. You're of course gonna want a pair of scissors and a tapestry needle to weave in your 2 ends that you'll have when you're done here. So go ahead and gather your materials, and then come on back and we'll get this thing going. Okay, for starters, we have to figure out what size we want this. So again, I'm going to make this about 40 inches across, 48 inches in length. And for me, I am going to start with 127 foundation double crochets. Now, you can make this any size you want. The requirements are that you have a start of any odd number and then +6. So for me, my odd number was 121, and I added 6, and that got me to the 127. You can do this any odd number that you want. Just when you get to the odd number that you want, just add 6 more. Now that's also assuming that you're doing a foundation double crochet as opposed to a foundation chain and then going back over it with a double crochet, right? You would have to add, if you're gonna do it that way, I think you're gonna have to add 2 more to your chain if you want to do it that way. I do not recommend doing that. If you have not done a foundation double crochet before, please take a minute and learn that. I'm actually going to do it here briefly for those of you that haven't done it before, and I'm also going to link a tutorial to the foundation stitches in the description box so that you can get a more in-depth tutorial for that if you want to learn that. It is worth your time learning that, in my opinion. Couple of reasons. Number one, heck, it's just quicker because you're not going over the chain, doing a chain and then going back over it with your double crochet. You're doing it all in one. Also, I try to do these blankets without having to go back around and put a border on. It's just neater. Maybe not for everybody, but for me, I prefer the look of it. I think it's a cleaner edge, and especially if you're not going to go back around and do a border, you've heard me preach about this before. I just highly recommend it. Again, if you haven't done it before, I'm going to do it really quickly here before we get going, and then link that tutorial. So I'm going to go ahead with 127 foundation double crochet, and let's go ahead and just take a look at what that looks like quickly. So to start with, I'm going to chain 2. Let me zoom in a little bit so it's easier to see. All right, so I just chained 2. Pull out some of this yarn a little bit so I have that available. Okay. To do this foundation double crochet, you're going to yarn over and insert your hook in that very first chain, so the second one from the hook, but the very first chain. You want to go right into that chain, okay? You're going to yarn over and go through 1. You have 3 on the hook. The first thing you want to do is make the chain that you're not doing separately. So just yarn over and pull through 1. There's your chain. Now do your double crochet. Yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over, pull through 2. So what you've essentially done is your chain and your double crochet in the same stitch. All right, now we have to do our next one. You're going to yarn over and you're going to go into that chain that you just created. See that chain there? That's the one we just created. Go under both loops of that chain that you just created. See that? All right, yarn over and draw up a loop. Now you want to create your chain. So yarn over and draw through 1. There's the chain. And then your double crochet. Yarn over, go through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. Okay, there's that chain you just created. And this is all we're going to do. We're going to repeat that. Insert your hook in the chain you just created, 3 on the hook, yarn over and go through 1, that's your chain. Yarn over and go through 2, yarn over and go through 2. And you just want to continue this until you have the number of foundation double crochet stitches that you want for the width of the blanket that you're going to do. Again, I'm going for about 40 inches across. For me, that's 127, so it's an odd number of 121 plus 6 extra to get me to the 127. Go ahead and keep working on that across. When you get your foundation double crochet row to the width that you want, come on back here, and we're going to jump right into row 2 and our new triad stitch. Now I have my foundation double crochet row all done and ready to go, and we're going to do row 2. So to start row 2, we're going to have 3 double crochets. I'm sure you've watched my channel, my videos before. You know I don't like doing a chain 3 for a turning chain. We're going to do an alternative turning chain, or what some people call a stacked single crochet to start with. I'll again put a link to the tutorial down there below, but very quickly you'll want to insert your hook right into that very first stitch. I did not do a chain to start with, just right into the first stitch, and do a single crochet. Go into the left loop of that single crochet yarn over and pull up a loop and do your second single crochet. So in essence, you've done a single crochet on top of a single crochet. And that counts as our first double crochet. So that's one, then we'll do a second double crochet and a third double crochet. That'll be part of our border, and these 3 double crochet on the side, we'll continue to do that for every row. Now what we want to do is start our triad stitch. And for the triad stitch, we're going to want to chain 1 first, and then we're going to start working in that very next stitch. And you're going to yarn over, insert your hook, draw up a loop, and you want to draw this loop up until it's the height of that double crochet. So see how high that is? You're going to want to draw that all the way up. You're going to yarn over and go into the second stitch and do that same thing. Yarn over and draw that loop up. So now you should have 5 loops on your hook. You're going to do that one more time. Yarn over, go into the next stitch, draw up a loop, and again to that same height. So you see how high these are. I now have 7 loops on the hook. At this point, you're going to want to yarn over and go through 6 of the 7, like that, leaving 2 on your hook, and you're going to want to yarn over and go through the last 2. That is your triad stitch, and you can see it's got 3 parts to it. The 3 stitches where you did the yarn over and pull up a loop, and you can see it's a nice height to compete with the height of the double crochet. So there's your triad stitch. Now we want to chain 1, and we're going to do that again. Now here's the important part. When you're starting your next triad stitch, you're going to start it in the stitch where you ended the one you just completed. So this was where we put our 3rd part of the triad stitch. We're going to put our 1st part there. So yarn over, insert into that very same stitch, draw up a loop. Again, make sure you draw it up high enough. If you don't get it high enough with this first one, they're certainly not going to be high enough for the next 2. So make sure this first one is the height that you want it. Yarn over, second stitch, draw up a loop, okay? Yarn over, insert your hook into the 3rd stitch and draw up a loop, nice and high. 7 loops on your hook. You're going to go through 6 of them, yarn over and draw through the last 2, and there's your next triad stitch. And we'll do that one more time. Chain 1. We always want to have a chain 1 in between our triad stitches. Okay, we're going to do the next one. Remember, we're going to start in the stitch where we ended. Yarn over, insert a hook into that stitch we just finished, draw up your loop, yarn over, insert your hook into the next one, yarn over and draw up a loop, yarn over, insert your hook into the next one, yarn over and draw up a loop. Here's my recommendation for you though too. As you're doing this stitch, sometimes these stitches here, they get loose or tangled or overlapping each other. Before you do your yarn over and go through 6, just make sure they're all in a row. It just makes the stitch look neater. Yarn over, go through all 6, yarn over, go through 2. And if you can see, if you have them lined up properly, they're always going to look neat as you go across and do these. So it takes a little bit of time just to make sure you've got the stitches straight and all that, but it'll be worth your time as far as the looks are concerned. And this is what you want to do all the way across until you get to the last 3 stitches. So continue doing your triad stitch, chain 1, triad stitch, chain 1, all the way across until you get to the last 3 stitches. Come on back here. We will finish up row 2 and start row 3. And here's row 2. Isn't that cute? I love the look of that stitch. And you should be at your last 3 stitches here. So what we're going to do is we're going to end the row like we started the row, and make sure you've done your chain 1. So we want the chain 1. We're not going to go into the same stitch this time. We're just going to use these last 3 stitches, get that out of the way, and do 3 double crochets. Pretty simple. Oops. There's 1, there's 2, and there is 3. So that is the end of row 2. You ended it like you started it. And now we'll go to row 3. Row 3 is super easy. Row 3 is just a row of single crochets. Helps give some stability and a nice look in between where you have all the chain 1 spaces. So for starters, again, I'll just mention this. No, we're not putting a border on this. You can if you want to, of course, but it's not going to be necessary. So I'm not going to chain 1 for my single crochet row. I'm just going to pull it up till it's about a single crochet height, and I'm going to go right into that first stitch and start my single crochet right there. And that again will leave that nice and straight here. So you're just going to want to do a single crochet in every stitch and in every chain 1 space all the way across. So include these chain 1 spaces, do a single crochet. Here's the top of the triad stitch, and do a single crochet there. And just do those single crochets all the way across. And when you're done, come on back here and we'll talk about row 4. And here's what you should have for rows 2 and 3 once you put that single crochet row on top. Now, for the next couple of rows, what we're going to do is we're going to repeat rows 2 and 3 2 more times. So you should have 3 rows of the triad stitch and 3 rows of the single crochet. So 2 and 3, repeat 2 and 3, repeat 2 and 3. I hope that makes sense. So go ahead and repeat those rows. Again, row 2, which will be row 4, starts with your alternative turning chain and 2 more double crochets, so that you have 3 double crochets, your triad stitch all the way across, and then the next row, your single crochet row. Do that until you have 3 of each, and then come on back. And here's what it looks like after we finish row 7. So you can see we have 3 rows of the triad stitch and 3 rows of the single crochet. And I think it looks adorable. I absolutely love that look. So now we're going to turn and we're going to do our next row. Get this going here. And we will start with this part of the border. Remember, I told you these 3 double crochets are going to go all the way up the side of the blanket for part of the border. So we'll start with an alternative turning chain as our first double crochet, and then 2 more double crochets, and that will be our 3 double crochets, just like normal. We're going to chain 1, and then what we want to do is 3 of these triad stitches. So we'll do our first one, chain 1, our second one, and our third one, just like we did the previous rows. Chain 1, and then we are going to do double crochets all the way across, and just to be clear, our double crochet doesn't start in the last stitch of the triad stitch like we've been doing. It goes into the next one. So we did that chain 1, and then in the next stitch and forward we're going to do a double crochet all the way until we get to 10 stitches from the end, because then what we need to do is do the left side of the border, this on the left side like we have here on the right. We want it over here. So go ahead and do your double crochets all the way over until you get to 10 stitches from the end over here, so that we can do the left side border and then come on back. All right, so we have our double crochets all the way across here, and we have 10 stitches left at this point. And what we want to do, like we did on the right side, is we want 3 of the triad stitches and then the 3 double crochets at the end. So we want to chain 1 first, and then in the very next stitch, you want to do your first of 3 triad stitches. Chain 1, your next triad stitch, which reminder starts in the last part of your previous triad stitch. Chain 1, your third triad stitch, chain 1, and then end with your 3 double crochets. You should have 3 stitches left. So again, not in the last stitch of the triad stitch, but in the next stitch. 3 double crochets, just like this. All right, and that ends that row. So mostly double crochet with just that border element on the left and the right. And all you want to do now, all you want to do now is turn your work and do your row of single crochet. Again, we will have that single crochet alternating every row. So pull up your stitch a little bit into the very first stitch and do a single crochet all the way across. That's in every stitch and in every chain 1 space. So just remember, we've got these chain 1 spaces here in between these triad stitches. You're going to want to put a single crochet in the chain 1 spaces as well. So go ahead and do your single crochets all the way across and come on back and we'll do the next row. Okay, there is us finishing row 9 here. So you can see we're starting to bring this border element up the sides, and we'll continue to bring that up the sides and incorporate some new elements as we get to them, like this new one with the double crochet there. So let's go ahead and turn and do row 10. Row 10 will start out like the other rows, just like normal. Let me zoom in a little bit. We're going to do this part of the border as we have been. So we want an alternative turning chain and 2 double crochets to start with. That's 1, 2, 3. So there are your 3 double crochets. Then we want to do these 3 triad stitches, and we're going to continue to do that from all the rows all the way up now as we continue on. So go ahead into the next stitch and start your triad. And chain 1 and your triad, starting in that same stitch where you ended. And chain 1 and 1 more triad. Then chain 1. Now we want to incorporate this element into our border going up. So we want to do 3 double crochets, and we're going to go in the next stitch, not the one we ended in, but the next stitch, and do 3 double crochets. So then we have 3 double crochets, 3 triad, 3 double crochets, and that element will carry up the side of the blanket. All right, and now what we want to do is a little bit of a repeat for across this row. You're going to chain 1, skip 1, double crochet, and repeat that. Chain 1, skip 1, double crochet. Chain 1, skip 1, double crochet. And you're going to do that all the way across until you get to the last 13 stitches. You're going to have this element go all the way across till you get to the last 13 stitches. And then for the last 13 stitches, we're going to do exactly what we started with. We're going to do that on the left-hand side. So go ahead and repeat this chain 1, skip 1, double crochet all the way across. You should end on a double crochet, and then actually you'll end on a chain 1, I'm sorry, and then come back here for the last 13 stitches and we'll finish that out and do the next row. So here's how that should look with that pattern going all the way across, the chain 1, skip 1, double crochet. And I ended on a chain 1, and now I go to the last 13 stitches. So I'm going to skip this, and here, this is the 13th that I was talking about. You're going to do 3 double crochets, 1 in each of the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3. We're going to chain 1, and then start our triad stitch, because we're going to do 3 triad stitch. Remember, we're carrying those on up. And the triad stitch starts in the next stitch, right? So there's 1 and chain 1. Your next triad stitch, which starts in the end of that last one. You guys know this by now. There's 2 and chain 1, and then your third one. There's 3 and chain 1, and then 3 stitches are left, and you're going to want to do your 3 double crochets. And then this way we are ending this row the exact same way that we started the row. And that's how that row should look. And you could see we're starting to carry this on up. We're also carrying this double crochet element up as well. So you'll see that a little bit more defined as we go forward. Okay, you know what the next row is. Go ahead and do your row of single crochet on this in every stitch and chain 1 space all the way across, even in all these chain 1 spaces. Do your single crochet row and come on back. Okay, here's where you should be right now after finishing the single crochet row for row 11. And now we're going to go ahead and turn our work and do row 12. Row 12 is going to be another double crochet row, but we're going to make sure to incorporate all the border elements on both sides. So of course, to start with, again, we want to incorporate the 3 double crochets, the 3 triads, the 3 double crochets, and now this element here, the chain 1, skip 1, we want to get all of that in there as part of that border. So we'll start with our alternative turning chain. Sorry, my work is falling there. All right. And our 2 double crochets. Then our chain 1. And now our 3 triad stitches. So in the next stitch, chain 1, our next triad, one, and our last triad here for this side. Chain one. Now our 3 double crochets that we're going to carry on up. And then we want to do our chain one, skip one, and then a double crochet. Okay, so that's going to be both your right side border and your left side border. So we're going to continue with double crochets across here in every stitch, and we want to continue that until we get to the left side. Let's bring that on over here, because when we get here on the left side, we'll want to incorporate the chain one, skip one, the 3 double crochets, the 3 triad, and the 3 double crochets. So let's see, that would be 15, maybe 14 stitches if you go to this double crochet here, right? So 14 stitches, you'll want to do double crochet until you have 14 stitches left, and then you'll want to complete by finishing up this border here. Let's do that just one more time, and then I think you'll have this border down pat. So go ahead and complete the double crochets all the way across until you get 14 before the end. Come back here, we'll just finish up this border one more time just to make sure we're still all on the same page, because it's got that new element there, and then we'll continue from there. This is what it should look like at this point. You've got the double crochet all the way across, and we're now here to this last chain one space here, and we want to incorporate that element on up here. So, and you have 14 stitches left here. So you're going to chain one, you're going to skip this one, and you're going to do your 3 double crochets. So you've incorporated that element that's going to carry up. Now you want to do your 3 triad stitches, so we need a chain one first. In the next stitch, you're going to start your triad. Chain one, then do your next triad. Hold on, I need more yarn. Sorry. To stick a little bit. Chain one, and then your last triad. Chain one. You have 3 stitches left. You're going to do your 3 double crochets. So here's 1, here's 2, and here is, oops, 3. So that's what that should look like. You've got this element, you have the triad element, the next double crochet element, and now this skip one element that's going to come up there. So at this point, you know what you have to do next. You're going to go ahead and do a row of single crochets all the way across, and then come on back. Okay, now we want to move on to row 14. And for row 14, we're going to do another one of these rows with the chain one, skip one in there. But of course, we want to start the sides with the border elements that we've been carrying up throughout so far. So we're going to want to start with our alternative chain, our alternative turning chain, which counts as our first double crochet, and then 2 more double crochets. And then chain one, and then we're on to our 3 triad stitches as normal. So here's our first one, chain 1. Let's do our second triad stitch. Chain 1, and then our third triad stitch. My hook is being uncooperative. There we go. And then a chain 1. So we have those. We're going to do our 3 double crochets for the next element. Okay, then we want to carry up this chain 1, skip 1 element, so we'll do a chain 1, skip 1. And we also want to carry up 3 double crochets. That's going to be part of the border. So do 3 double crochets. We will carry that up on the side as part of the border. Now, so this is all part of the border side on the right. Now we're going to do this chain 1, skip 1 all the way across like we've been doing. Chain 1, skip 1. Chain 1, skip 1, and then a double crochet. Chain 1, skip 1, and a double crochet. Okay, and we want to do this all the way across to the other side until we get to the last 3 of these double crochets. So let's see how many spaces in that is. Until the last 17 stitches, right? So when you get to the last 17 stitches, you're going to have 3 double crochets, your chain 1, skip 1 element, 3 more double crochets, your 3 triad, and your 3 double crochets. So go ahead and do the chain 1, skip 1 until you get to the last chain 1, skip 1, double crochet, of course, right? Until you get to the last 17 stitches, stop there, and then you can come on back here, and we'll just finish up because we've got that extra element over there. We'll just finish that up and fill in the left-hand side border, and then go from there. All right, now that we have this element all the way across, we're here down to the end of this row, so we want to finish this up. I have a chain 1 and I'm going to skip 1 on here. I'm at the left-hand border, and that should leave me with 3 double crochets because we want to carry that element up. Okay, then we want to chain 1, skip 1 so we can carry that one on up. And we want 3 double crochets again because we're carrying that up. All these different pieces that are going to go up the sides of the blanket. It's important so that that border can come through. Okay, now we're on to our triad stitches, but remember we start with a chain 1 and then we do the triad. And then chain 1 and the next triad. And chain 1 and the last triad. I just love this stitch. I think it's so neat. Chain 1, and then you should have 3 stitches left, and that's for your 3 double crochets. And this should finish out row, there it is, row 14. See that? So you have those border elements here and on the right. So you know what to do next. You want to go ahead with your row of single crochets and then come on back. Okay, so now we're on to row 16, and we are going to start what our 2-row repeat is going to be for a majority of this blanket. So to start with on 16, of course, we want to put in our border, and our border is going to go all the way through these elements that you see here. The 3 double crochets, the 3 triad, the 3 double crochets, the skip, chain 1, skip 1, 3 double crochets, and chain 1, skip 1. That's going to be part of the border that's going to be carried up through the entire blanket. So let's just start with that to get this going here. So you have your alternative turning chain as your first double crochet. You guys are a pro at this now. 2 more double crochets, there's your 3 double crochets. You're going to do a chain 1 before your 3 triad stitches. We're going to go ahead and do your triad now. Oops. And then chain 1. We're going to do our next triad. And a chain 1. And our third triad. And a chain 1. Then we're going to do our 3 double crochets. Now we want to do the chain 1, skip 1. Then you want to do 3 more double crochets. I know this is kind of a hefty border as far as the number of elements, but I think it looks really nice. And it's really helps to offset the very simple center of the blanket, as you'll see. So now we want to do one more element. We want to do this chain 1, skip 1, and carry that up. So we're going to chain 1, skip 1, and then double crochet. So that's going to be the border on both the right and the left sides. Obviously the left is the inverse or the reverse of this. So all we want to do now is double crochet all the way across. And you want to do that until you get to where we need to do the border on the left hand side. And let's go take a look at what that looks like, just to make sure we've got that down. So over here, that border is going to start with this chain 1, skip 1 here. Remember that we want that to carry up. So that is 18, if you count the space here, 18 stitches from the end. So we want to do double crochets all the way to here, and then when we get to 18 from the end, we want to start with this chain 1, skip 1, and then do the border that matches the left hand side there. That is row 16, and I'm sure I don't need to tell you what row 17 is, but 17 of course is a single crochet row. Those two are going to be your 2-row repeats, and what you'll want to do is continue to repeat rows 16 and 17 until the blanket gets to the length that you would like. Again, I'm going to try for 48 inches is what I'm looking for. Now, what you want to do is take into consideration that all of this here, this bottom border part, it's going to be repeated up at the top, right? Because we want this pattern to go on the bottom, on the sides, which we're doing, and then across the top. So you want to take that into consideration when you're determining how long to make this center pattern. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit here. So let's take a look at this. When I look at this bottom part that we've done, looks to me like it's about 7 inches. If I want this blanket to be 48 inches long, I'm going to want to subtract 7 inches for that, and I'm going to want to do repeats until the blanket is 41 inches long. Then I know that I've got 7 more inches of border that I'm going to add to the top. That will make it 48 altogether. I hope that makes sense. But go ahead and figure out how long you want your blanket to be. make sure you take into consideration how long or how wide, however you want to look at it, your border at the bottom is, because you're going to repeat that at the top when we get done. And go ahead and do that 2-row repeat until it gets to the length that you want. Come on back here, and then what we'll do is we'll do the inverse of this border to put that at the top of your blanket. So come on back when you're done. Okay, and here you can see I went ahead and repeated rows 16 and 17 a lot of times. And I did that until my blanket was 41 inches long total. Just as a reminder, I'm going for 48 inches in length, and my border part that we're going to repeat now is 7 inches. And so for me, I needed to do this until my blanket was 41 inches long. When I add the 7 inches that we have left of border, then it will be 48. So that's where we are now. Now we're going to take what we had started with for the bottom border, and we're going to do that up at the top. So let me just show you what that requires. I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom, and here's our border. So if you remember, we were repeating rows 16 and 17, which are these rows here, the double crochet row and the single crochet row. So now we want to repeat all of this right here. So this row here, which is the first one we're going to repeat, is row 14. And what we're going to do is repeat row 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9. We're doing it all in reverse, right? So at this point, you're going to want to start with row 14, and I'll have little links or kind of chapter links in the description box so you can get back there really easily. And we're going to do 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, all the way down to 2, which is this full row of triad stitches. Go ahead and repeat 14 down to 2 and come back here, and we'll finish up this blanket with row 1. Okay, take a look at this. I now have all the rows from the border up here on the top, and now those border rows go all the way around. So cool, I love it. And we just have one more row to do, and I didn't have you repeat row 1 because row 1 was a foundation double crochet row, and of course we're not going to do that now. So your last row here is really just to have a row of double crochet. So go ahead and do your last and final row of double crochets, fasten off your yarn and weave in those ends, and then come on back here and we'll see what it looks like. Okay, here it is. There is the final row along the top of the blanket. You can see it now has that border there all along the top. The border is all along the side. The border is down all from the bottom where we started. And I really hope that you like this. If you have questions, concerns, thoughts, please don't hesitate to put a comment down below in the comment box. I would appreciate your interaction. Also, if you decide to make it, what color are you making? I got some swatches from some people before via email, and that was fun to kind of see your work in progress. And I always enjoy talking with all of you. So please don't hesitate to put a comment in the box below. Also, if you would take a minute and like and subscribe, that really helps my channel out and gives me the opportunity to continue to posting videos like this. I'm really enjoying doing this for all of you. So I hope you've enjoyed this, and I will plan on seeing you all next time. So thanks for stopping by.